Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show. And in this episode specifically, we're going horror comedy this week because this is a film called Tragedy Girls, which came out last year.
Sounds hilarious.
I think it does sound hilarious. I don't know about you, but my sixth sense of humour was appealed to by the premise of this, which is two teenage girls who have an obsession with, well, tragedies, and they're big social media folk. They like to hashtag things. They've got a Twitter account called Tragedy Girls, and basically they want to start a killing spree, and they kidnap a serial killer at the start of the movie and want him to teach them how to kill things. He kind of refuses, but then they go about trying to do killings anyway because they want to create a social stir. They want everyone to react to it, and they want to get away with it and blame the serial killer before they go off to college. That's the premise of the movie. It is very much a teen movie mixed with a horror comedy, because there's definitely the teen movie elements and the teen movie structure there as well. So that's the idea. We'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. The one I recognised Michaela in this, who's one of the two girls, and I was wondering where she was from. She was actually it's Alexandra Shipp. She was the new Storm in the last X-Men movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
and obviously I didn't completely recognise her because she doesn't have the mohawk, but I'm like, she looks familiar. I've seen her in something. But that's what she was in. She's in the new one as well. That's coming out soon. So I'll ask the question, Tim. Did you enjoy Tragedy Girls?
Uh, Not really. It's not awful. It's a completely like fine watch. Like, it's not overly bad or offensive. It's not boring. Like, they kept my attention, but I really didn't like the main characters. Like, like obviously they're not good people because they, are killing and stuff. But I feel like there still wasn't much that really, like, you can still root for like a bad guy or a killer or whatever, but I don't like that whole social media obsessed thing. And it's like the first part of the premise I really liked. Like I didn't really know much about this going in, and then when it starts with them, tricking a serial killer and capturing him, and then wanting to learn from him, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. But then that wasn't really what it was about. Instead, it was like they didn't want to kill people and become their own serial killer, which is what I thought. They just want people to die so they can blog about it and get a lot of likes. And it's like, oh, all this new media and social media. And I was like, oh, give me a break. Like, I hate like movies about Instagram or Twitter or like social media being a plot point. I thought it was so annoying.
Old man Tim here, with all his old man opinions.
I was just like, every time they're like, oh yeah, we need more likes or more hits, or oh hey, let's do a selfie. I was like, oh shut the yeah, now it's making me mad thinking about it.
Interesting. I liked it more than you did. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. Like I think I share some criticisms. I like half of the pair a lot. I think Alexandra Shipp's
Okay.
Michaela. I think she's very funny. There were
Yeah.
several times in this that were making me laugh out loud. There's a few times where like one of them will be doing like a kill thing, like they'll be stalking a victim or they'll be talking to someone before they kill them or whatever, and the other one will be listening in over the phone and they'll be listening to what's going on. And there's a scene in this where she's just listening in. Michaela's the one listening to the conversation that's happening in the other room. And every single time it cut back to her and she yelled something at the phone in anger was making me laugh. So I think she was the best actress in the movie because she was properly cracking me up.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I definitely enjoyed her more, the pair. And yeah, there was a few like laugh out loud moments. Like I will admit that the movie did get me a couple of times.
It does. There's also a couple of really good kills. There's not a lot of them, but there's two in my mind that really stick out as being, oh, that was a really gruesome, cool little moment.
Yeah.
But hey,
Okay.
What, you don't agree?
I'm not. No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just like I'm just wondering which ones they were. There was some okay stuff. It was definitely heavy on the CGI, but
Oh, sure,
there was like
sure.
some inventive, cool stuff.
Two or three. There's two or three in my head that had some really fun moments. And then there's some actors in this that pop up. Craig Robertson pops up in a small role.
Yeah,
That was
that's right. I guess
unexpected.
he like produced the movie or something. Like,
Let me check.
It said like I'm pretty sure I saw his name like during the credits. It was like executive producer. I was like, whoa,
Oh, really?
I guess that explains why he's in it. But it seems like an odd movie for him to be in.
Jesus, there's a lot of producers on this. Oh, he is there. He's like
Uh.
15th in the list, but he is there. Okay,
Uh,
we covered that. Okay, yeah, he's in it, and then the dude Peter from the Hunger Games, he's got like a small role in it that I was out of nowhere.
oh yeah,
He's the
almost forgot
motorbike.
about.
He's the
Yeah.
motorbike dude. Yeah. So yeah, there's a couple of recognizable actors popping up in there. Um, I don't know. I like the sense of humor. I like the general premise. At least the wanting to be serial killers thing. The social media aspect. I mean, I can take it or leave it. It was just kind of the motivation for them. I'm not really. It doesn't irk me the same way that it sort of, I guess, is
See,
what I'd say.
the thing that annoys me is like that was their main motivation. Like I don't think they cared about being serial killers. Like to me, that didn't seem like what it was. Like all they cared about was having something that they could cover on their social media stuff, which that annoyed me. Like,
Yeah.
just get rid of that aspect and be like, hey, I want to be the new, Jason. Teach us how to, put on masks and be creepy and stuff like that. I think that is a great premise. I like that. Social media stuff. It irks me. What can I say?
It was definitely at its best when they were trying to kill people. That's when I was really into the plot and I was into the sort of dark
Definitely.
humor of it. I do actually kind of like. I think it's a bit murky as you get towards the end because I wasn't sure where it was going in terms of. Are we meant to then root for like the one who's the less evil of the two? Are we meant to? Because I'm like, well, no. I mean, if I'm going to take this seriously and treat it as, oh, they need comeuppance because of what they've done, then they both need comeuppance. They've actually killed people. They've both worked together to kill multiple people by the end of the movie. And I did kind of like that it kind of went in another direction where it was like, no, we're going for just the dark black comedy ending where like like it's not a movie where everyone gets the happy ending. It's not a movie where like.
Yeah.
Because it actually is the ending's oddly dark. It doesn't treat it in a dark way, but it is actually quite dark when you stop and think about what actually happens in the last act.
Yeah, that's fair.
By the way, the actor who plays the killer, the killer they kidnap, Lo.
Yeah.
That's Kevin Durand, who's been on a bunch of stuff. He was on Lost. He liked the eggs on Lost. Was a tidbit
Yeah.
for you.
Okay. Yeah, he looked recognizable. I thought it was Lost, but I wasn't sure.
I mean, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Like I mean. Let's have a look. I'm sure I've seen him in a few things. Oh, wasn't he in one of the Resident Evil movies?
Jeez.
I want to say he played like Barry Burton in like one of them. Who he's totally miscast for. He did. I confirmed.
Oh my god.
Resident Evil Retribution. I had no idea that was one of the titles of a Resident Evil movie, but there you go. So yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Yeah, he's one of those actors who pops up. Oh, he was in X-Men Origins Wolverine as Fred Dukes. I don't know who that is. Specifically.
That's
it's
the Blob.
It's a Blob, yeah, I remember him now actually. I remember the comical CG of
Yeah.
So you get the Blob and Storm in the same movie. Look at that. Exciting.
Nice little reunion.
So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a fine, entertaining little watch that was fairly forgettable. There's a couple of standout little laughs that I quite liked, but I mean I wouldn't overly recommend it. Like I'm not like as much as I'm being more positive than you, I'm not going to stand here and defend it and be like, no, Tim, you're being a fool. It's much better than what you're saying.
Right.
It's solid enough for what it is, but it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely coming at it more negative, but I am in the same boat. Like, again, it's not something I'm like super mad at because it's not a hard watch. Like, it's not boring. It doesn't, there's nothing in it that really made me go like, oh, come on, like, just stop it. Like it was, it's one of those completely like, okay, I get what they're doing. It's fine. I watched it, but yeah, like you said, there's nothing about it that makes it like overly, oh, this was amazing. Especially, with like the last couple of years, I think we've gotten like some really, really good, meta horror stuff like, Cabin in the Woods or like The Final Girls and that kind of stuff. And it felt like they were kind of like trying to go for some type of like meta horror thing. I think with like talking about horror a lot and
they were talking about horror a lot. I think I was getting more of a Scream Queens vibe.
Okay, I can
maybe,
see that.
Maybe Final Girls of Cabin. Like I'm thinking more Scream Queens, the TV show with maybe a little touch of like Heathers or something like that. A teen movie like with a dark set of girls. I don't. It's funny. I do think Alexandra Shipp's probably the most interesting thing, or the best reason to watch the movie. Her performance is actually really likable because she's very sadistically evil in a very cheery way, which is it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um,
Um, not to get like super like the typical nerd guy,
oh
but
god, here we go.
like the it's just the
I'm bracing myself.
I don't know. This is just one of those like stupid nerd things where it's like we like these things that we want more of, and then when we get them, we get angry. But like the horror references felt like so on the nose to me. Like it felt like they're trying to be like, oh, look at us, like we know so much about horror movies. But then like they kind of pick like the most known obscure movies. Like, thanks for letting me hear a copy of Martyrs. Like, yeah, that movie was sick. Like, do you like Dario Argento? Who's that? Like, it's like, oh, like oh man, that like you got to be a real obscure horror guy to get these references. Like you're picking the
Yeah,
most on the nose stuff.
I'll,
But
I'll,
I feel
I'll,
like that's like a typical complaint of a nerd though, where it's like,
it
no, you should
is
like this. You like these things.
like I'll give you Martyrs. The Argento one though, the following scene of that where Alexandra Shipp intentionally gets his name wrong like 5 times was actually kind of funny. So
Yeah,
you know what, I'm gonna let that one slide.
that's fair. Yeah.
I'm gonna let that one slide because that actually led to a couple of laughs. But that's that. I mean, that's really my overall feelings on it. Is I kind of like the killer as well. The small amount you get of him, the fact that he's kind of an idiot, kind of like he's just this dumb
Yeah.
killer who gets bested by 2 teenage girls without with very little effort, might I add. Like they just have him by the balls immediately. He's
Yeah.
terrible. But hey, so we'll give a spoiler warning. So full spoilers for the Tragedy Girls. So the movie, like, it starts off with them being obviously friends, try to kill people, and there's a running joke that I also appreciate early on, where the first like 3 people they kill, the press and the police keep thinking they're accidents, and then like, they're getting no credit for there being a killer around. Because like like one feels like, oh no, that's this guy, like he just like had a crash in his motorbike. That was an accident, even though the stab wounds in his chest, but whatever. Uh, or the first person who dissolved in acid, oh, he's just missing. There's no foul play. He's just ran away from home, and so on. So I did like the kind of joke when they're killing the sort of the bitchy like head of the prom committee girl. We're like, okay, we have to like, oh shit, this is gonna look like an accident. She just like her head went on the buzzsaw, and I'm like, no, we have to make sure this is not an accident. We have to make sure that whoever finds this crime scene is like, no, this was intentional. This was sadistic assholes who did this. So they cut her body up and like place like her head spinning on one of the tools and like everything going. I like that running joke. As far as the deaths, I did like the buzzsaw kill. I like the Craig Robertson death with the weight the weight bar where they just drop it on his head and it just sort of cracks open the top of his head. I kind of like that.
That whole scene was kind of funny, just with them like throwing weights and stuff at each other, because it's just it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like I never really seen someone just throw a weight. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. I do want to go back to that kind of like accidental death subplot. I like that as well. I thought that was kind of a funny idea, especially like them getting so frustrated about it. The only thing is like I feel like it's set up like this is what the movie's going to be about, and then it's like kind of resolved.
It resolves about halfway through. Now you're right. You feel like that's kind of what most of the movie's going to be.
Like it should either be like set up once really quick or go throughout the whole movie, and it just feels like it's in a weird place where I mean that's it's set up to be more than it is, and then it isn't.
That's probably my biggest problem with the movie is when it turns into the other girl Sadie. She kind of starts to like maybe be tempted to just like date the sheriff's son and doesn't want to be this anymore.
I think that the one thing I liked is that I thought the 2 girls actually, and from actually most of the people in the movie, I thought they all genuinely looked like they were high school students, except for like because usually in movies like they're high school students, but they look like in their 30s or whatever. But I thought everyone in this looked like a high school student except for the male. What was his name? Jordan.
Which, and they mentioned at the start of the movie that he was held back a year, so he's a year older than everyone else.
Maybe like that plus 20 years. Like I was like, oh, this dude's in his 40s, right? So I actually looked him up on IMDb. He's only 25, but he looks older than that. He also seems to be a Quaid. I don't know. He's a member of the Quaid clan. I don't know where exactly he falls, but he has Quaid lineage. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the Quaid
What are
curse.
you, what are you
You're
talking
older.
about? What are you talking about? What's the Quaid clan?
Oh, Dennis Quaid, Randy Quaid.
Oh, that clan. All right, just related to Dennis and Randy Quaid. My God,
I'm assuming well, his last name's Quaid, so I'm assuming he's related to
dude,
them.
what is like when you meet someone with a last name? I don't know. Was there someone else in this? Shipp. Like you go, oh, she remember the Shipp clan. I wonder if she's these other ships that we know.
If there were two other famous actors with the last name Shipp, I would think, oh, maybe she's one of them. Like, I don't know. That's why I looked at him. He had that like dumb Quaid face. I was like, yeah, I can see it being a Quaid.
Okay. Oh dear. Oh dear. Um. Okay. Well,
Someone fact check it. If he's not a Quaid, hit us up on whatever.
oh my
Instagram. I don't know.
God. I need to know now. I need to know now. I have to find out. There's nothing in his IMDb description. Nothing in his IMDb description. I'm gonna go checking. He was in the Hunger Games as well, apparently.
Oh my gosh, it's reunions all over the
I
place.
know. All these reunions. What was I going to say? Yeah.
But yeah, dude looks old.
When it became like the actual sort of dramatic plot where the girls kind of fall out for a little bit, and I did like the kind of joke where Sadie gets on the she gets like a press statement herself because she inadvertently kind of saves Jordan from the killer, because the serial killer Lowell breaks out of their prison and comes for him, and she kind of defends him, and then she's seen as a hero. And some like the news reporter's like, hey, what's next for the tragedy girl, singular? And she's like, well, and you just see like Michaela and the crowd be like, oh, she's not correcting her, oh, I'm upset now.
Oh yeah, because they set it up earlier that it's always like whenever they give the name, they're like tragedy girls too. Yeah, that's freaking stupid too. Like, what news program would like promote someone's blog or something? Like, that's like they make it seem like at some point, like, by the end of the movie that like people are going to that as like a legitimate news source or something. Like, I think one of the reporters or something like quotes like, "Hey, you said on your like video or something like who is doing that?"
Valid questions. I mean, there's parts I liked about the whole split up. Like I say, Michaela reacting to all the stuff that was being said before the killer showed up in the house, I thought was really funny. I do like when she gets into the limo and she doesn't have a date, and you just see that like Lowell, the killer's in the front seat, and they're both just laughing manically. Okay, I'm like, okay, they're going to do some shenanigans. And I did like the dark ending, because so basically this confrontation happens where they start like arguing with each other. And by the way, there's another cool kill where Michaela slits the teacher's throat. She just kind of slits her throat and blood starts pouring out. I was like it's not a very violent movie, but there's just 2 or 3 scenes with sudden bursts of violence. It's it's fun. But they have this confrontation, and they're in like the theater department, and they're in on the stage in the theater department, and they're arguing. The killer's there, and Jordan, Sadie's boyfriend, is like hiding behind stuff and listening to all this. It turns out that the pair of them, their first ever kill was his mother when they were like 8. They strangled her while she was driving. and it killed her. And I'm like, okay, so he's going to be clearly pissed at Sadie, right? He jumps out and tries to save her. He's like, no, it's all her. She's a bad influence. It's all Michaela. We'll run away together. And he tries to get her to run with him. And I do actually like the twist that the story, it actually plays like a teen movie in the sense that the girls fall out, and then by the end of the movie they become friends again. And she announces her friendship and her her loyalty to her friend Michaela by putting a noose around Jordan's neck and throwing him off the rafters, and he hangs to death. And I started laughing because I'm like, okay, this is dark as shit. Okay, I appreciate the dark kind of we're just going to do the teen movie plot where they fall out and then become friends again at the end. That's the story of the movie. They just happen to be killing people as they're doing it. I appreciate that.
Here's what I'll say to that, Tiz. I agree in theory that sounds like it could be an interesting idea. However, I feel like it doesn't feel earned because I forget the other girl.
Sadie.
Sadie. First of all, Her acting wasn't the best.
No, it's not. She's easily the weaker link of the two girls by
Yeah,
far.
which I think maybe might not be that big a deal if Michaela wasn't like so good, like because I feel like she like kind of popped every time she was on screen, which made
Oh, she
Sadie
does.
stand out as
She steals the attention every time she's in a scene because she has so much charisma. Like she's good. She's genuinely really good.
yeah. But I feel like if you want to go with that ending, which I agree that could have been like kind of cool. I feel like you would have to have more of an arc for Sadie. What it doesn't really feel like, because even at the beginning of the movie, she feels like who she is. Like you already see from the beginning that she has a crush on this guy. So, like 2/3 of the way into the movie, when this dynamic happens where they start going out, um, it doesn't feel like a new thing that's gonna break up their relationship,
Yeah,
because
well, that's the thing.
that's what she's been like since the start.
I agree with all this, which is why I say, as much as I like how it ends, I do think the movie loses its steam when it tries to put in this plot. When the girls split up and we have this kind of dynamic, and it's like, okay, so what they're going to do? And my big thing was just sort of like, well, they can't like set her up as now the good person and have her like help put down Michaela, because she's also helped kill people. Like she deserves just as much as comeuppance, no matter what you say.
Very true.
And of course, after they've hung him, they actually trap everyone in the gym and set fire to the school, killing everyone in their school year. And no one finds it suspicious that they're the only two who survive.
Yeah, like not only the only two that survived, they've also like in some way seem to have been related or known about like all these other murders and stuff.
They have been. I mean, they try and get around it by saying, "Oh well, the Lowell, who they think is the killer, he was in there with them."
True,
how they explain the gunshot that killed him, I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know. Look, I think what it kind of boils down to is like there's some good ideas in it, and it's not like um, they're not done like poorly, but they just could have been done better, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's fair. I think I like a lot of the ideas. I like Shipp a lot in the movie. She's really charismatic whenever she's on screen. Which is probably part of my problem when it switched to them splitting up, because we kind of focused more on Sadie at that point in the movie, and I kept like, oh, let's go back to Michaela. She's more interesting. She's more likable.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm always rooting for her more than Sadie, because Sadie's just kind of dull and uninteresting, and the actress isn't as good. So it's just that kind of thing. But hey, like I think ultimately I think it's a pretty decent watch with a couple of standout elements. But it's not like a standout movie overall.
Yeah, I think I like pretty much the same feeling, just I guess presenting it in more of a negative way. I will highlight the 2 times that actually made me laugh quite a bit, which both with the same character, is the janitor, Mr. Gordon. I liked the
yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Go on.
it was actually 2 scenes I liked with him. I like the so when the kind of like nerdy girl or whatever is like leaving after being like at school late, she walks by and she goes like, "Bye, Mr. Gordon." And he's like, "Bye, you." Like he obviously doesn't know his name. It's like that's pretty funny. And then when
Do you know what I like about that? I like that the joke in a movie would normally be that the janitor's learned all the kids' names, and he's like, "Oh, bye, Sally," and she's like, "Oh, bye, janitor." Like that would normally be the joke, but in this movie, the nerdy girl knows the janitor's name. The janitor's like, "I don't give a shit who you are. It's my job. Go away."
Yeah, it also seems like he's like so like taken back by it. Like he's like, "Why is she saying bye to me?" He's like, "Okay, whatever."
I didn't take this gig so that teenage girls could have the hots for me. I mean, maybe I made the wrong career choice.
But then, I guess probably noticeably the bigger gag with him, which I also liked a lot, is when they're dismembering.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that I mean, I'll let you explain the joke, but this also came out of nowhere, and I didn't see it coming. Like when the joke happened, I was like, that was really funny, and I did not feel there was a joke being set up.
Yeah,
because I thought what was going to happen is that he was going to catch the 2 girls dismembering the prom committee person,
and then they were going to like run down after.
Yeah, they were going to chase him, and we get like a funny death scene with him. Like, but that's not what happens. You say what happens. But that's what I was expecting.
Oh, yeah, so they're like dismembering the body of like the popular girl or whatever, and you see him like walk in, emptying the trash, and the girls just like freeze and they get these like really worried like pretty good facial expression work
Yeah.
from them on this
And,
scene.
and you get like a wide shot from behind them where
Yeah.
like they're on either side looking towards him, and he's just he's over there. He's got his bag and he's like doing, but he's got his head down the entire time.
Yeah. So yeah, and he doesn't even notice him. He just like walks out and like whistling and stuff, and then he turns off the lights. I was like, all right, that's pretty funny.
Do you know what I love about that joke? I loved it about halfway through the shot as it's happening. I realise that's what the joke is, and I start laughing hysterically because it's even funnier than him getting caught, or him catching them and then them having to chase him down and kill him.
Yeah,
but
like
I think it was very funny.
Yeah, that was good. I feel like there was it's a shame because there was like maybe like 3 or 4 instances like that where I was like, you know what, this is like a legitimately funny joke, and I actually laughed, and like I don't know, sometimes I can be a little snooty about comedy and stuff. Like I like
You never,
I don't, but I don't typically laugh like a ton at a lot of movies, and so it was nice to have like a few genuine laughs in this, but it's just a shame that it wasn't something like throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, like I say, like the scene where it keeps cutting back to her in the car listening to the conversation, that was really cracking me up. And the thing is it wasn't even like the lines themselves were that funny. They were just kind of normal reaction lines, but it was her delivery of them where it's like they'd say something in there, like she suspected that he stole her phone because he was trying to like prove that she was involved in the killings.
Mm-hmm.
And he in this scene, like he brings out the phone to say, he's like, oh, and I got her phone, but it's password locked, I can't get into it. And it just cuts back to her going, I knew it. And that's not a funny line. On its own, it's not that funny. But her delivery made me laugh. Like her reacting to everything was cracking me up. So, like I said, she's the gem of the movie by far.
Yeah, definitely. She was really good, and it's almost a shame that like you said, it gets to a point in the movie where it feels like she's kind of shunted off and more focusing on Sadie and stuff, because it's like, oh no, yeah, she's definitely the standout.
It's only maybe 15 minutes of the movie, really, when you think about it. But it's enough to feel like, oh, we left Michaela for too long, and now I'm missing her. And I think what really sums it up though is if you took Alexandra Shipp out of that role and put in someone who was equal to Sadie in acting ability, this movie would be painful to get through, probably.
Yeah, it would be real tough.
Whereas here, as it is, I think there's enough there to I think it's worth recommending for like a Sunday afternoon. You want something light on as a horror fan.
I think it's perfectly watchable. I feel like don't go out of your way, but if you have access to it, if it's streaming or whatever, and you want something new to watch, it's perfectly fine. Which I don't know. Sometimes I hate saying that because like it's fine kind of sounds like such an insult. Like I don't know, like the way people say it, it always sounds so grating. But it is. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yes, I will rate it on a simple scale of better or not better than The Boy. It is better than The Boy.
No.
It's better than The Boy. No. Take it to the bank.
That's going to be our disagree.
This is going to be our version of the 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down. Like, is it
2 boys up?
2 boys up, 2 boys down.
I would do that if we could get like some custom made boy dolls. Which, if anyone makes those and wants to send us something, that'd be great. But if we got a few of those, I could just hold them up or upside down.
We do.
Then we like the movie.
Okay, but seriously though, rating out of 10, tell me what you giving Tragedy Girls?
I think I'm gonna give it a 4. I was kind of tempted to do like a 5 because that's kind of like right down the middle. Like it's not good, not bad. It's just like okay. But I think I liked it a little less. Like I think if there were maybe just a few tweaks with the stuff I didn't like, could easily be bumped up to a 5 or so. But I think I gotta go with a 4.
Going a 4, that feels harsh to me. Because I am going to give it a nice shining bright 6.
Oh wow.
A 6 out of 10. I think it's an enjoyable film. It's not. I mean, 7's good, of course. 6 is a nice watchable, some entertainment. But it is lacking elements that I think to push it into the pantheon of good horror comedies where I'm like, no, that's like Final Girls, or that's like Shaun of the Dead, or that's like take your pick. I mean, I'm telling you, I need to rewatch this to know my opinion on it fully, because I feel like I've not seen it in a while. I've only seen it once, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil, where the entire joke was that everyone kept thinking they were killers and they weren't. People just kept having accidents around them. It was a really funny movie. But I need to go back and see it again before I give a full comparison to that. But
Yeah, I agree with that. I really like that as well. I only saw it the once. So I wonder if knowing the jokes and stuff, if it holds up as well.
curious. But it does have Alan Tudyk, who was on Firefly, which was created by Joss Whedon, who also wrote and directed and created the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Just done at the end. That has been Screams After Midnight, folks. Obviously, let us know what you thought of the episode, thought of this movie, in the comments, as always. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a link in the description. And hey, if you put enough money into that, then Tim can just, leave his job. I mean, that's
true.
That's what's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Do this full time.
I'm even more shameless than my vanity is my willingness to do anything for money. So
that's true. That's true. You have done some pretty weird things for money in the past. I've heard a few stories. But that is us. So, in all seriousness, guys, thanks for sticking with the show. So it'll be less frequent for the next little while, but it's not going anywhere. We promise you that. So thank you very much. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.